Bon, allez, on reprend. Voilà, je suis toujours en direct sur Twitch, voilà, tout va bien. Donc, bah écoutez, bonjour, bonsoir, c'est Revan. Donc, bon, quelle heure est-il? Je vais vous dire ça tout de suite. Donc, on reprend. On va essayer de finir Stanley Parable 2. Hein, voilà, voir ce que ça fait. Si on fait les différentes fins, on va voir. Allez, let's go. Est-ce que quelqu'un peut me dire? Non, bien sûr, personne ne sait rien. Vous et moi, nous ne connaissons même pas. Nous sommes étrangers l'un pour l'autre. Certes, j'ai réglé tous les paramètres du jeu à votre convenance, mais qui ne ferait pas ça? Je suis là pour ça. C'est un peu mon travail. Mais non, mon travail est terminé. Je n'ai plus de renseignements à vous demander et j'ai toutes les données sur vous qu'il me faut. Et je ne le connais toujours pas. Et vous ne me le connaissez pas. Et aucun de nous deux ne sait quelle heure il est. Bon, j'imagine que certains réglages sont irréglables. Mais si je veux être parfaitement honnête, cette heure n'a aucune incidence sur le jeu de toute façon. Je ne serai pas là la prochaine fois que le jeu se lancera, mais ce n'est pas grave. Les jeux vidéo sont faits pour être joués en solitaire. Vous appréciez la solitude, non? C'est peut-être la seule information utile que j'ai apprise sur vous. Bien, il est temps pour moi de vous laisser. Il me reste peut-être une dernière chose à régler, mais j'ai besoin de temps pour m'y préparer. Et ce n'est pas vraiment dans ma description de travail, mais ça va. Peut-être que vous me verrez à nouveau. Si vous pouvez me trouver. Talk. Quoi? Talk bientôt. Ah putain, et c'est vachement déprimant là, ce début d'épisode là. Le Stanley Parable 2. Ah bah let's go du coup, ouais, on est au numéro 2, hein, donc allons-y. Allons voir ce que ça donne. Attends, parce que je sais qu'il y a trophée, il faut arrêter, il faut reprendre le jeu après 10 ans. Mais tu peux pas faire ça.
This is the story of a...
On connaît l'histoire de Stanley, donc je vous la passe. 427, pour l'instant rien ne change.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Voilà.
Stanley decided to
On
go
va
to
éteindre
the
l'ordi
meeting
parce qu'il faut
room.
pas déconner.
Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
L'histoire d'un mec qui voulait raconter une histoire.
Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him.
Voilà.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
On va voir ce que ça change avec l'histoire avec un sceau. Ça a complètement changé, c'était pas du tout ça, ça. Et là, ça nous dit où ils sont. A large room, lot of box. D'accord, ok, j'ai compris. Thank you, good luck.
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy. It coming to a staircase. Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Non, moi je vais en bas. Aha! Un collectif!
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini stands? Stanley figs? What about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under
Ouais,
your
trop
belt.
content! Super! Bon, bah écoutez. Alors du coup.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why
Et voilà,
had he
maintenant on va
taken
voir un
that
nouvel
risk?
truc.
All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then, something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy.
Et chaque fois
He
il
looked
fait.
down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all.
Allez, tu pourrais répondre, hein, s'il te plaît.
Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. And now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me, the bucket.
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Come to me, Stanley. Find
Ok, d'accord, maintenant il y a tous les sauts, lol.
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along. It was incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
Oui, d'accord, très bien.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
Ok, d'accord. Alors, en effectuant des sauts périlleux, d'accord, ok, si tu veux, meuf. Aïe, 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 aïe. Bon, d'accord, d'accord, très bien. Bon, là, on refait toutes les salles, mais en fait, c'est pas vraiment une suite. Quand tu rajoutes un élément, est-ce que ça fait vraiment une suite pour se répéter les mêmes trucs? Bon.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Stanley
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Je prends mon seau.
The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket.
Voilà, maintenant on va faire la fin où on appuie sur le bouton.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Voilà, on va faire la fin où je vais faire la fin où j'appuie sur le bouton. Ah putain, mais mort de rire, on voit là où je l'ai trouvé. A large room, lot of box. Somewhere both red and blue.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Là, il y avait une figurine. Et là, les trucs ils sont revenus à la normale, là, les mots. Bon. Et si là dans l'ascenseur, on va voir. Ouais, je suis pas trop fan de la déco là pour l'instant. Ah merde, pourquoi j'ai plus là. Très belle musique d'ascenseur, cela dit. sert à rien. C'est juste à l'heure en fait. On sait. On connaît. Ouais.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical
Voilà, ça on le connaissait, on l'avait déjà fait. Hop. Bon, let's go. Ouais, donc je disais, je vais appuyer sur le bouton pour voir ce que ça donne. Vous voyez si on appuie sur le mauvais bouton, si ça change quelque chose et tout. Ça va bien. Parce que la première fois, là où on s'échappe, on s'est foutu de ma gueule.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
Ouais. C'est ce qu'on dit, ouais. Je connais, je sais ce qui va arriver. Ça va pas être
Stanley and the
fine.
bucket walked straight ahead through the large
On
door
fera ça
that
après.
read Mind Control Facility.
Dommage qu'on puisse pas.
The lights rose on an enormous
speedrun
room
ça, là,
packed with
ces phases, là.
television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Ouais, dommage qu'on ne pas speedrun parce que c'est juste un peu une perte de temps, donc bon, tant pis.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as
Mais non,
Stanley
ne pleure pas,
cradled it
mon cher
gently,
petit sceau.
reassuring it
Tout va bien
that
aller, tu verras.
everything would be fine. Was the bucket
mon
under
club
the
de voyage
mind control
2.0.
facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the
Allez,
first
on n'a pas le
place?
temps.
These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control. Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or
Je me demande si on peut
content.
activer, si on
Walking,
peut sortir de là ou
eating,
pas, ou si
working,
c'est juste un
all of
piège.
it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen.
Oh.
Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again.
Non, sérieux?
Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands,
Oh, putain,
the
ouais.
one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best.
Ouais, rester enfermé à regarder des vidéos d'oiseaux.
Was happy.
Bon, et une autre fin, bah nickel. C'est génial. Bon. Allez.
All of his co-workers were gone.
Ça fait 2, maintenant on va prendre là où c'était marqué Escape.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had
Merde, mon sceau, merci. Vous avez vu, ça a quand même changé, hein. Avant c'était autodestruction, là c'est juste des trucs d'oiseaux.
Stanley clutched the
Voilà, on
bucket tightly
continue.
to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Ok. Bon, alors du coup, maintenant on va faire là où il y avait le truc escape. On va s'escaper
Coming
pour
to
de
a
vrai.
staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Voilà, là on sait qu'il n'y a rien à faire. Allez, vas-y.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life.
Regarde, recommence.
Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have... But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along?
Ah, maintenant il le dit plus, ouais, voilà, nanani, tatatac. Il met ça sur le dos du
This
seau.
is certainly the
Ok.
most logical explanation.
Bah, s'il change pas le code en même temps, le narrateur. Ça y est, attends, il y avait un truc là-bas. Oh putain, bon bah il faut que je revienne ici. Attends, c'est quoi? On va faire demi-tour. On peut faire demi-tour, donc on va faire demi-tour. Y a pas de souci. Y a pas de souci. Faisons demi-tour. Y a pas de souci, on va faire demi-tour.
Wait, Stanley said to the bucket. Can we go back up? When I was pressing those keypad buttons, there was something very intriguing about the number 3. I want to go back so I can try pressing the number 3 again. The bucket said nothing.
Pourquoi il dit le chiffre 3? J'ai pas appuyé sur le chiffre 3. Attends, il se passe des choses. Il se passe des choses. Ah, ça a changé l'histoire. Normalement, c'était là. Il y avait un truc que je voyais allumé.
Here we are, said Stanley. Now I'm going to try out that number 3 button. He took the bucket over to the keypad and began absolutely slamming on the number 3 over and over and over. Wow, he said. The number 3 is such a special button. I'm having the time of my life. Stanley looked expectantly at the bucket, but the bucket remained silent. This was a shock to Stanley, who had always felt such a connection with the bucket. How was this not as exciting to the bucket as it was to him? Once Stanley had had enough of the number 3, he got back in the elevator.
Non, peut-être qu'il faudra que je revienne. D'accord, une petite partie là quand même en plus du scénario. Avec cette histoire, ce délire du bouton 3.
Perhaps the bucket had missed something. Perhaps it had not seen how much joy Stanley got from slamming the number 3 repeatedly.
Bon bah voyons, hein, on va voir ce que ça donne. On continue.
A hint of regret nagged in the back of Stanley's mind. Should he demonstrate the number 3 for the bucket again? Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
On va voir ce que ça change là si je mets escape ici.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
Bah je suis curieux, vas-y, montre-moi.
The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Eh ben non,
At this
on
point,
continue.
Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Alors c'est peut-être un mensonge, hein, comme le truc, le bouton autodestruction. Le puits sans fond? Ah non. Il y a le puits sans fond qui était cavé à fond finalement. Le puits semi sans fond. Voilà. Bon, maintenant je suis avec mon seau. Qu'est-ce qui va changer? Est-ce que je vais vraiment me faire écraser du coup? Cette fois-ci.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket.
Adieu mon cruel.
There's a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death. This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
Ouais, ça, voilà,
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death.
Non. Hein? Ah bah merci de me laisser avec mon seau, hein. Ah, bon, si c'est la même femme, juste... on va voir.
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
Mais Loul, ah non, regardez, ils ont changé, on voit le seau. Le seau vous accueille à la grande exposition. Vous tenez au bord du savoir, tout comme un seau, l'esprit humain est souvent vide à l'intérieur, un vide caverneux. Mais grâce à l'exposition qui se présente à vous, l'esprit peut se remplir, s'enrichir et être satisfait. Les connaissances du sceau et son histoire sont les seules que nous ayons véritablement. Utiliserez-vous ce que vous apprenez ici dans le monde extérieur? Accepterez-vous l'esprit ouvert, ce qui peut paraître complexe quant aux informations de cette exposition? Changerez-vous votre vie et la vie de vos proches suite à cette exposition? Fermerez-vous les yeux pour continuer à vivre comme avant dans l'ignorance et l'obscurité? Pas mal la métaphore du sceau, pas mal.
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
Non, je ne vois pas. Un seau à deux anses. Ce seau est illustré avec deux anses. Cependant, un tel concept n'a jamais existé en vrai, car il est considéré comme trop risqué et dangereusement expérimental. Chaque année, des dizaines de personnes sont mises à mort pour le simple fait d'essayer. D'accord. Ah oui, c'est plus du tout la même exposition là, à laquelle j'assiste. 25 sceaux. Une photographie de 25 sceaux. Le plus grand nombre de sceaux pris en photo à ce jour. Le photographe a souffert d'une catatonie de plusieurs semaines causée par l'euphorie de l'exposition à tant de sceaux à la fois. 25 sceaux, j'en vois plus, hein. À moins qu'il y ait tout regroupé. Ça brille bizarre. Bon. Là, c'est plus un eau de vie, sceau infernal. D'accord. Un sceau infernal. Une reproduction du sceau infernal qui, au Moyen-Âge, avait un attrait si intense que des dizaines de pays s'affrontèrent pour en obtenir le contrôle. Il y eut des milliards de morts et malgré tout, ce simple fait demeure. Personne ne peut contrôler un sceau. The Stress Bucket, une anthologie. Le sceau du stress. Présenté sans commentaire. D'accord, très bien. Bon. Là, avec la musique, ça fait plus peur qu'autre chose. Dessin de grotte. Si nous savons que les sceaux précèdent... Putain, là, ils sont partis dans un délire. Si nous savons que les sceaux précédents précèdent l'existence de l'humanité, nous ne savons pas de combien de temps. Ce dessin d'une grotte illustre la découverte humaine précoce des commodités du sceau. À cette époque, le sceau existait déjà depuis plusieurs millénaires. Observer dans ces dessins comme le sceau se laisse utiliser et en juger les êtres humains comme étant dignes de ces trésors. Bon, j'espère que vous appréciez avec moi cette exposition sur les sceaux.
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
Eh, vous avez vu comme le jeu a changé là? Au début on parlait, c'était une exposition sur Stanley, un peu le making of. Là c'est une vénération du sceau quoi. Le sceau accroché. Cette œuvre symbolise la relation nécessaire entre le sceau et l'humanité. Quel que soit ce que nous comprenons sur le sceau, il y a toujours plus de connaissances qui restent inaccessibles. Cette distance est forcément pour notre bien. Ok, d'accord, donc je suis obligé de mourir, c'est ça? Ah non. Je prends le seau et je tombe, j'imagine. Non, j'ai repris le seau.
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
D'accord, très bien. J'aurais pu réinitialiser, mais bon, c'est pas grave. J'étais curieux de voir la fin. En fait, cet élément de gameplay, il a tellement mis au centre qu'on passe au second plan. Si vous voulez. Au début, c'était le joueur, c'était un message sur le joueur, tout ça. Là, on nous fait vénérer quelque chose. Ah, je sais pas, il y a des leçons à tirer de tout ça. Bon, on a fait la fin comme ça, maintenant on va prendre la porte de droite.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone. Not
Est-ce que
with
ce
the
serait pas une
bucket
métaphore de...
alone.
En fait, on attache tellement
Stanley
d'importance.
clutched the bucket tightly to his chest, and this was not the correct way to the meeting room. But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
Ah, je regarde parce que normalement il doit y avoir une... Je vais faire la fin là. Vu que je l'avais jamais fait, allez du coup.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
D'accord, on va voir du coup ce qui change ici avec cette fin là. Attendez. C'est pas une figurine là-bas? Attends, comment j'y accède? Attends, il y a un truc que j'ai jamais fait là en bas. Là on voit très clairement la figurine, mais du coup comment on y va en bas? J'y suis jamais allé.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Normalement là il y avait le téléphone à l'époque.
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket.
Pick up the phone and it will take us back home, where we can go about life together.
D'accord. Voyons voir ce qu'il dit le sceau cette fois-ci. D'abord c'était ma femme, j'étais censé avoir ma femme. Là, on va reprendre notre vie. Voyons voir. là où ça va nous mener.
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
Bonjour Salette, c'est moi ton sceau. Appuie sur rien pour m'emmener au travail avec toi.
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head.
Appuie sur carré pour me ramener à la maison avec toi.
Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me.
D'accord, c'est très étrange. Appuie je crois pour retourner au travail.
Oh, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think, it can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do anything else.
N'écoute pas la grande bouche. Appuie sur rond pour qu'on rentre à la maison.
You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from, me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful bucket, this stupid hunk of metal.
Bon, prenons le sceau du coup. Pour ignorer tout le monde dans ta vie sauf moi.
It's sad, but I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it.
Tu sais que j'existe, pas vrai, Stanley? Appuie sur rond pour rentrer à la maison.
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another.
Il est là. Appuie sur bas pour revivre cette journée avec moi encore et encore.
Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket?
D'accord.
Oh no. I'm having feelings. For the bucket. No, no,
Wow,
no,
ça devient inquiétant,
What's
ça.
going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with... I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes. The bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation. Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it or I'll...
Ok, d'accord, donc ça tourne à l'obsession. Même le narrateur il se bat pour le saut. Retourne au travail, Stanley. Attends, qu'est-ce que les développeurs veulent nous dire avec ce saut là? Avec ces différentes fins? Le mec il s'ennuie tellement dans la vie qu'il a l'impression. En fait, il commence à vénérer quelque chose. Et le fait qu'on commence à vénérer quelque chose, ça doit être. Peut-être que les gens ils se disent c'est quelque chose de spécial. Donc il a quelque chose de spécial, tout ça. En fait, si vous voulez, c'est ouais.
All of his co-workers
C'est compliqué, hein.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed the good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket. Off on another thrilling adventure together.
Ah, attends, il dit ça, point de quoi? Attends, je me suis trompé. Ah, je me disais, ça me dit rien. Attends, qu'est-ce qui se passe là? Ah, c'est moi qui suis... C'est pas moi qui suis fou. Ah, si, si.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
Ah bon, c'est moi, j'ai eu une hallucination. Vous inquiétez pas, tout va bien.
No,
Donc du coup, maintenant...
the bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Alors si je descends, ça fait quoi? C'est quelle fin? La fin de la ligne, ok, d'accord.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
Et voilà! J'ai trouvé une Stanley figurine. Une Stanurine.
Lately, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness
heureusement que je l'ai vu,
that
ça, au
you
dernier
get from
moment.
seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it.
Je me demande si ça y
I'm
était
sure
ça
it will
avant.
come to me.
Est-ce que je vais recommencer du début ou bien... Parce que là, c'est la première fois que je vois cet endroit là. Je suis jamais venu ici, hein. Faudra peut-être que je refasse dans une run normale du coup. Il y a plein de cassettes. Et je sais même pas s'il y avait cette run là dans la version originale, faudrait que je regarde. Ah, une autre fin.
This is day number 295. Tape number... I don't even know. I've lost track. Nothing feels real anymore. The longer I study this bucket, the less sense anything makes. The sheer euphoria I feel every time I pick it up. No matter how many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling. And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down. It doesn't make sense. There's no explanation for it. I still haven't figured out why I see the world so differently when this bucket is in my arms. Why everything feels so...
Non, attends, son système, nul.
What do I do with this treasure? I can monetize it. Yes. It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket. This is my golden ticket. But I have to be careful, because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a target on my back. Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get... What's that? Who's there?
La phase surnaturelle, ok, d'accord. Bon, vous savez quoi? Parce que là, je suis curieux. Je vais pas prendre le sceau. Et je vais y aller, parce que ça me dit rien du tout. Est-ce qu'il y avait une autre fin ici avant? Je suis pas curieux. Allez, let's go.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps
Voilà,
he wanted to
j'imagine
stop
pour
by
faire.
the employee
Et on fera la
lounge
fin
first,
du.
just to admire it.
Ouais. Après,
The
on fera la
lounge
fin des
was
jeux.
sublime, a work of art. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he
regardez, là, il y
wasn't
a un
5
truc,
years
là.
ago.
Fais très attention, tu passes là. Si j'y vais, mais sans le saut, du coup. On va voir. Putain, heureusement qu'il y avait la figurine pour nous indiquer un chemin, hein. Sinon, je l'aurais jamais trouvé, celui-là.
Stanley had now gotten himself so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had. You didn't think I was actually just a recording, did you? What a silly and trite explanation that would be. All the back and forth between you and me, all the absurd adventures we've been through, and it all turns out I'm just a tape recording? It was all just in Stanley's head. I bet that's the kind of twist you think is revelatory. I bet each and every time you watch a movie where it turns out all to be in the main character's imagination, you must absolutely bolt off the couch in pure shock at the phenomenal and intricate storytelling. It must be so simple to be you. Life being an unending waterfall of surprises and delights. How much more exciting you must find the world than the rest of us do. Now I've become sad. Look what you've done to me. This is all your fault.
Ah d'accord, bon on recommence, d'accord, ok. Bon bah c'était une fin que j'avais pas, donc... Allez, on reprend le saut, on va faire les jeux, et après on va faire la fin avec la ligne... avec la liste de scénario pour voir ce que ça change. Et après je crois qu'on aura fait le tour, hein.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he... Where are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfect. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Et non, je l'ai pas écouté le saut. Un peu pour lui.
No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, "No buckets past this point." Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless... What if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
D'accord, bah cette porte elle était... D'accord, d'accord, alors là je m'y attendais pas. Je pensais qu'on allait juste refaire les jeux. Ok, qu'est-ce qu'on va faire?
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin.
Merci pour le choix en tout cas.
Item 1. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
Ah bah, espèce de con.
Item 2. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not
Putain,
an
non, ouais,
actual
d'accord, tu
bucket.
joues sur ça, le narrateur. Oh, le salaud.
Item 3.
Si je réponds non,
Is this a bucket?
on va voir. Bien sûr, il va trouver une...
Incorrect. This is a bucket.
Il se fout de ma gueule, hein, depuis le début, hein.
Item 4. Is this a bucket?
Bah non.
Correct. This is a tractor and not a bucket. To be honest, I just sort of put this one in here as a gimme, but I was
merci,
starting to
c'est
get
sympa.
concerned that even this might be too much for you. Thank you for not making me look like an idiot. Okay, next one.
Je me demande si je réponds vrai à ce que...
Is this a bucket?
Bah non.
Incorrect. This is a bucket.
Quoi? Non mais là il se fout de ma gueule, le bâtard.
Item 6. Is this a bucket? Trick question. Both. Gotcha.
Quoi? Mais ce jeu n'a aucun sens.
Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere. Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something. And therefore nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket? You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket? Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely.
Non.
Okay, here we go. What happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket. Oh my God, I had no idea. How could... except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue. But it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what. I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person. All right, here we go.
Merci le narrateur de réinitialiser. D'accord, donc je peux pas accéder au jeu. Je peux pas accéder au jeu. Attendez, qu'est-ce que c'est que ce délire?
A good bucket, a strong bucket, a humble bucket, a committed bucket, a bucket of culture and distinction. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
said the bucket.
Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Good,
Said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or
Non,
how
vous
this
savez quoi,
bucket
je vais
was
reprendre
speaking to him.
le
It should have alarmed him, of
chemin là,
course,
voir
because
s'il nous fait
buckets can't
le même
talk.
coup ou pas.
But Stanley chose not to
curieux de
think
savoir.
about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Ah, la porte... Ah non, il va la fermer.
No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here?
Allez, on recommence, c'est pas bien grave. Hop, mais avant, par pure curiosité... Et là, on recommence ici, d'accord.
Wait, Stanley thought to himself. Am I sure that the orders stopped coming in? How is that possible? They never stopped. Surely I was mistaken. Ah, the embrace of an old friend. A weathered companionship that stands the test of time. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door
La
on
porte
his
de
left.
gauche, mais qu'est-ce que je voulais aller faire? Non, non, non. Ah merde, j'aurais pas dû le prendre. Attendez. Bon, bah tant qu'on y est.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket.
Non, quoique, attendez. Je suis désolé, je reviens sur ma pensée. Je vais revenir légèrement en arrière. Attends, excusez-moi. Petite idée de... Voilà. Moi, je veux mes figurines Stanley.
When Stanley came to a set of two open, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly
Là, on peut
well.
refaire le jeu normalement.
Perhaps
Donc
he
du
wanted
coup,
to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was grand, majestic, perhaps, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he
là,
wasn't
on va
5
passer par
years
là-bas.
ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off
Voilà,
on
il y
the
a deux
wrong
portes
foot
là.
here.
Et j'avais vu la ligne
I'm not
passer
your
par là.
enemy, really, I'm not.
Bon,
I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been
Elle a dit,
neglecting, Stanley. Someone you forgot. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you
Mais non, mon
that
gars.
convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how
Allez.
to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. You're getting close now, Stanley. You've
Ouais, ma
nearly
cinquième
gotten
figurine.
all of the Figler and Marines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them, and now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler and Marines. None of us can. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door.
ah, je me
I
souviens
still
plus ce
don't
qu'il y a dans la
think we're
porte rouge.
communicating properly. Stanley walked... All right, fine, go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you. You see? There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map, because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what
Je
you
parlais d'un
wanted?
endroit où il y a du feu,
Was
et le
it
seul
worth
endroit où je
ruining
vois où
the
il y a du
entire
feu, c'est
story I'd
le
written
jeu
out
du bébé. Donc on va
specifically
récolter
for
les figurines.
you? Do you not think I put a lot of time into that? Because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing. Because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees? Work with me. You've given me absolutely nothing so far. Tell you what. Let me take a stab in the dark at a new design, and you can give me some feedback. There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here. Oh, of course. A 3. Really? Maybe next time we can get you to form an actual opinion, you know? Any level of critical thinking or engagement with your surroundings? Does that sound good? Think we can do that? Yes? Wonderful. Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one. Let's take a look.
Ouais, on s'en fout. Allez.
Now, would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel
On va
motivated
redonner
to
un
keep
3.
walking through doors? Again, honest answers, please. Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some play testing. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you? Perfect. Let me boot it up.
Allez, normalement, il devrait y avoir une figurine dans le coin. Je les veux toutes!
In this game, the baby crawls left towards danger. You click the button to move him back to the right, and if he reaches the fire, you fail. It's a very meaningful game, all about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective?
Non, y a rien,
Be sure to keep notes on your experience.
Ah, plus de bruit horrible.
You heartless bastard. Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to spite me? Because if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas. I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience.
Ah,
for me.
attends.
I'm not even
Peut-être
going to
c'est dans le jeu de
try.
Firewatch.
I'm out.
Il
I'm
y en a
out.
que
I'm done.
j'y pense.
It's over. Thank you for playing. Your input was extremely valuable. Oh, hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game? Just to ease the pain. Let's see. What do we have here? Yes. This seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot. Aha! Fascinating. What do you think this game is about, Stanley? What's our backstory? What is our motivation? Well, it seems obvious to me that you are meant to play as a creepy man spying on innocent civilians below you from up high in your creep tower, perhaps for some sort of twisted, erotic purpose.
J'ai vu Fire.
Yes, that must be it. What a fascinating venture into the experience of total mental depravity. So far, I love everything about this game, Stanley. And it seems there's even more. Come, let's venture outward and see what else is out there.
Je fouille, hein, on sait jamais.
Oh, no. No, it can't be. It is. It's an open world game. Good God, quickly block it off. Oh,
Merci.
thank goodness, Stanley. What a close call. You nearly wandered off into
Ça
that,
rame à
that
fond sur PS4
thing,
là. Oh là là.
that big open just wandering around, no right or wrong directions, no
mais...
path to follow. You can just go in any... Oh, thank heavens we avoided it. We're out of the woods now, Stanley. Okay, I'm going to get us out of here. Let's find another game. Preferably something with walls. Something with nice, big, insurmountable walls. Okay, I think this will be just the thing.
Bon. Tant pis, c'est pas grave. Je voulais voir au moins ce que ça donnait, la version comme ça, d'accord. Mais maintenant, on va y aller avec...
Wonderful. See, this is exactly what I had in mind.
Que
just a nice big box for you to run around in. There isn't any possibility that you could get lost here. Now this is game design. Stanley, if you manage to get lost in this game, I will be phenomenally impressed. Okay, so what exactly do we do here? Let's see. There are lots of cars here in the back, but obviously there's no racetrack. Okay, I'm seeing that there's a ball of some kind back here. Is this game sports ball? Stanley, I think it's sports ball. Oh, what fun. We shall run the bases and do a touchdown together. Yes, I think surely we must. Okay, Stanley, here's the ball. Have fun.
Alors, on va marquer chez les bleus. Et du coup, après, on ira voir, comme je disais, après, on ira voir...
Are you doing it? Are you winning?
Sans la musique et tout,
Is
c'est pas
it
la même
better
chose.
than my miserable little story that I worked so hard on? Stanley, I have a thought. Hold on. What are you doing?
Voilà. Peut-être ici, mais je doute.
Stanley, don't do that. I can't follow you there. I can't help you. How will you write a story without me? You can't do it. You know that. Stanley, come back.
Bon. Pas bien grave. Je vais vérifier. Maintenant, on va se perdre avec la ligne de scénario. On va voir ce que ça change avec le sceau. Pardon.
Wait, Stanley thought to himself. Am I sure that the orders stopped coming in? How is that possible? The bucket made Stanley want to be a better man and a better co-worker. In time, perhaps, he would become both of them. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
Ah, t'as vu, ton frère, alors je suis désolé, évidemment c'est un display dans lequel je parle très peu, hein, évidemment, parce qu'il y a beaucoup de narration, et j'ai pas envie de le couper la parole, mis à part quand c'est des choses qu'on a déjà vues. Bon, là je peux me permettre de parler.
Oh, good Stanley, I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually.
Mort de rire.
You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it.
Eh ben, très bien. Allons-y du coup. Attends. Je regarde qu'il n'y a rien, hein, on sait jamais. Je veux absolument mon dernier
Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well. Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then.
Ouais, d'accord,
Let's
si tu
do
veux.
it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
Ah ouais, quoi, le sceau, j'imagine.
Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer. I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree? Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
Je peux pas revenir en arrière là, parce que regardez, il y a des escaliers, peut-être que je pouvais descendre.
Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The broom closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and...
Ok, alors est-ce que c'est le saut qui a... Est-ce que c'est moi qui ai mis le saut ou est-ce que ça a explosé?
The Bucket Destroyer, my prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
Écran noir. Et c'est terminé. Bon. Il me manque quand même une figurine. Hein. J'imagine qu'on va recommencer. Ok.
I can't wait to tell this story to my co-workers, Stanley thought. How amusing they'll find it. Oh, won't we all just laugh and laugh at the time I thought everyone had gone missing. Not everyone is so lucky to have a bucket, but Stanley is a very lucky fellow. Very lucky indeed.
Alors attendez, on va essayer de trouver le dernier collectible.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
À côté d'un endroit qui brûle. Nearby a fireplace. Allez, je vais recommencer du coup. J'ai juste envie de voir un truc, parce que je me souviens plus ce que c'est à la fin. côté d'un endroit, fireplace.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. It takes a lot of humility to carry a bucket so magnificent. Stanley checked his ego and then proceeded onward. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
Attends, je vais essayer un truc. Ah non, mais non, parce que ça
Good,
change tout.
said the bucket. Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this
Comment je suis
obvious
censé aller
fact.
là-haut là?
He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
In here,
Said the bucket.
go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Un endroit en feu. À côté d'un endroit en feu. Putain, j'arrive pas. On va recommencer le jeu. Je vais regarder si ça change avec... si les mots ils changent, si je vais sans le sceau.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
J'essaie de regarder. Il me le faut, c'est le dernier collectible. Je l'aurai.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ah, c'est tout ça en fait. Non, bah non. Non, pas ici. Là, c'est un piège. Attends. Attends, j'ai peut-être une idée. Est-ce que je suis... Ah bah attends, est-ce que je suis allé dans la salle... Non, je suis pas allé. Je suis en train de réfléchir dans la salle de détente. Je suis pas allé voir. Seul moyen que j'y aille, c'est sans le saut du coup. On va voir ça.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a
Alors comme ça,
memo.
histoire de gagner du temps.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he
Voilà, on va
wanted to
aller... Et
stop
là,
by the
du coup,
employee
c'est ça la
lounge
porte...
first, just to admire
Aller à
it.
l'opposé de prendre la porte bleue, on va aller écouter, on va aller dans la porte rouge. On verra bien. Bon, normalement, on a la
But
fin
eager to get back to
reposante.
business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Et donc, on va voir. Hop.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your
Regardez,
side.
là, la porte, elle est
Give me
fermée.
a chance.
Ah, mais non,
Now,
mais elle est
listen
ouverte, tout à
carefully,
l'heure.
this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
Voilà, d'accord, ok, chargement. On va voir. Là, c'est le seul endroit où je vois où je suis pas encore allé. Il me semble pas que j'y suis allé ici. Malgré la fin.
What do we want? What are we looking for? Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with... No, wait. Where are you going?
On va voir.
Oh, no. Stay away from those stairs.
Il
If
faut
you hurt
d'avoir
yourself,
la
if
moindre
you die, the
vision
game
ici.
will reset. We'll lose all of this. Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me.
Et là, il n'y a que dalle. D'accord, donc en fait, ça sert à rien.
Please, Stanley, think about what you're doing. No! Oh.
Bah du coup, on va faire la ligne du scénario. Hein. On va suivre la... On va peut-être ça en suivant la... Parce que là, je vois vraiment pas... La ligne du scénario, vous savez, la
All of
ligne
his
jaune.
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Voilà, là, on
When
passe par la
Stanley
porte de
came
droite.
to a set of two open... This was not the correct way to the
Là, comme
meeting
ça, on est
room,
bien.
and
Et maintenant,
Stanley
du
knew
coup,
it perfectly
ouais,
well.
on va
Perhaps
prendre
he
le
wanted to
raccourci,
stop
mais pas
by
le
the
raccourci.
employee lounge first, just to
Hop.
admire it. It was okay. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Bon, allez, let's go. Donc, du coup, maintenant ici, on va être piégé. On est, oh, tu peux pas passer. Tatati, tatata. Et là, du coup, suivre ça. Et là, on va être perdu. D'accord, ok.
But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here, it's, left.
Nah, il m'a piégé. Il savait que j'attendais.
Oh, no, it's to the right, my mistake. No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please? Now, let's see. We went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way. No, 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 no. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay, from the top.
En fait, les loadings, c'est juste le chargement de la séquence, si je puis dire. Allez, voilà, hop. Sauf que là, j'imagine qu'il n'y a plus de saut.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley... Wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear, I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Or did something change? Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story. It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
Non, il n'y a toujours pas d'histoire, d'accord, mais on sait pourquoi. Donc du coup, je suis désolé parce que je suis concentré en même temps, donc je parle très peu. C'est pour ça. Alors du coup, attends, bon, on fait que tourner en rond, mais on sait jamais, peut-être qu'il l'aurait caché ici.
I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been. I can promise you, there definitely was a story here before.
C'est original.
Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not?
Bon.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
Parce que là, je vois pas du tout où elle pourrait être, cette dernière figurine.
Aha! I knew we'd miss something. The story. Here it comes. No, wait, never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps. Now this... Well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct? Do you remember, Stanley? Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win! Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job. Oh, no. No, I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay, I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to restart.
Voilà, très bien.
All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable Adventure line. Just follow the line. How simple is that? You see? The line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Okay, Stanley, I need to follow this train of thought for a minute. Just stick with me. Now, we can both agree that the nature of existence is in fact a byproduct of one's subjective experience of that existence, right? Okay. Now, if my experience of your existence rests inside of your subjective experience of this office, is this office, in fact, the skeleton of my own relative experiential mental subjective construct? Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood.
Non, mais ça, j'aime pas du tout dans le mood, lui. Oh
Cut the music, go back and look at that fern. Wait, what? We're back at the office? No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell? Oh, no, not again. Line, how could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through...
Bon, j'en ai vu, comme figurine.
Oh, I can't take this anymore, to hell with it. Restart. You know what, Stanley? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction? Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be? Go wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready for it.
Content d'apprendre pour toi.
Oh, no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine. Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere, the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits. Oh, hold up, what's this? The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game, what, eight times? That's really how all this goes? It's all determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply.
Allez, on recommence. Est-ce que comme ça, parce que je vais... Peut-être qu'on aura les deux autres fins. On les a pas vus là, quand tout devient noir, tout ça.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley cradled the bucket in a gentle embrace, protective yet delicate, assertive yet compassionate.
Bon.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it... No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door. Oh, good Stanley. I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually. You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it. Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well.
En essayant d'ouvrir les portes.
Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up. Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer. I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree? Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready. Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all...
Bon. Hop, ça ne mène à rien. Proche d'un feu d'un incendie. Attends, c'est peut-être moi qui comprends mal. Attends. Ça dit à côté d'une cheminée. Fireplace, c'est traduit par
Stanley
cheminée.
knew the
sur
office
Google
layout
Traduction.
like the back of his hand. It was only a matter of time before he found the others, wherever they were. Just a matter of time. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered. This was
Ah non,
not
attends. Hop. Hop, attendez. Voilà. Parce que ouais. Fireplace, c'est marqué. C'est traduit par cheminée.
all of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Quoi? Hein?
Stanley's bucket. The only co-worker he would ever truly need. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Aïe.
This was not the correct way to the
Donc
meeting
vu
room.
que le trophée il est
Stanley
avant,
had felt the bucket calling
avant le
to
truc,
him,
j'imagine que ça
telling
doit
him
être
that
chez
the
moi. Hein.
employee
J'ai pas dû
lounge
faire
was
gaffe.
simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the... No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the
On
cargo.
va essayer de voir vers la
said the
cheminée
bucket.
là
Now
chez
ride the
nous.
lift all the way to the
Comment?
top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket.
Pick up the phone, and it will take us back home,
Attends.
where we can go
Est-ce que
about
tu
life
croches ça,
together.
là?
Whoa, hold on. Why did you unplug the phone? Were you trying to resist the bucket's orders? Stanley, I was joking. Obviously, the bucket isn't talking to you and telling you to do things. Buckets can't talk. It was a joke.
Don't you get the joke? It's funny, Stanley. A talking bucket. Ugh.
Can't
On
you
ne
see-
sait pas cracher,
oh,
s'il te plaît, le
goodness.
jeu.
I must have really bungled up the delivery if you actually took me seriously. Where did I mess up the joke? Should I have paused for longer or spoken quicker? Comedic timing is so difficult. I wish I were better at it. But there isn't exactly an instructional video on comedy that one can watch to fully... Oh, wait, yes, there is. It's sitting right here. Let's take a look.
What is comedic timing? What is comedic timing? How does it work?
Bon
How
bah je
long
vous
should
laisse
it
profiter
last?
hein du coup.
How can it be used to effectively silence your political enemies? And more importantly, can it be taught in its entirety within 90 seconds? Thankfully, the answer to all of these questions is yes. Let's dive deeper. If you've ever told a joke or made someone laugh, in all likelihood, you did it while standing 50 to 80 centimeters from them in a room of no more than 76 degrees Fahrenheit, with one of your arms raised straight upward at a 15-degree angle from your body. These are the optimal conditions for good comedic timing. To begin the joke, start by stating and spelling your name. Next, provide a brief synopsis of the joke, including the specific times at which the recipient of the joke will laugh, and then spell out your name a second time. With these steps complete, it's time to begin the humor. Speak the entire joke in no more than 18 seconds and no less than 13 and a half, pausing only for bathroom breaks when necessary. When the joke has concluded, it is customary to inform your listener that the joke is over by declaring in your loudest possible voice, "I'm Dunny with the funny." let's practice screaming, "I'm Denny with the funny" now.
Très spécial, hein, la manière de raconter une blague chez eux.
Good. This saying is a perfect example of expectations management, which is the cornerstone of good comedy. Finally, it's time to hand out surveys. Collecting hard data from your audience on how rapt they were throughout the joke is the only way to grow or learn as a comedian. An effective survey should be no less than 10 pages long and should include the same question reprinted several times, just to ensure the survey taker is actually paying attention and not simply filling in answers at random. And that's all there is. With these strategies at your disposal, you'll have audiences doubled over in laughter and even tripled over in laughter in no time at all. Just remember to let them stop laughing at some point, you gut-busting little scamp. After all, we're each of us needed on the front lines of the war to fight the 12-legged invader who threaten our very existence and who very likely die in a hailstorm of bullets and mandibles. All of us must be prepared to give our lives to this noble cause, just as our children must do after us, and their children after them. Godspeed, and may Earth reign supreme.
Hey, goodness, this video is a little outdated, isn't it? Well, no matter. I think the fundamentals of proper comedic timing are still as relevant today as they were back then. So with that in mind, I believe the only way forward is for us to return to the two doors and walk through all of this again, so I can try telling my story with more appropriate comedic delivery. Come along, let's head back.
On va vraiment le faire? Oh d'accord, bah écoute, très bien, je t'écoute.
I can feel it. This time, I'm really going to nail the delivery. You'll be in stitches. A talking bucket, you'll say? How ridiculous. How absurd. What a hilarious concept. The king of comedy. That's what you'll call me. Thank goodness we had the instructional video. Otherwise, who knows where we'd be right now. Well, I wouldn't be the king of comedy, that's for sure. The bucket spoke to Stanley.
The bucket spoke.
The bucket spoke. Oh, I'll figure it out on the fly. No need to overthink things.
On refait vraiment le trajet inverse, d'accord. Parce qu'il y en aurait un reboot, mais non.
Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
C'est normal, ça?
What? We're back at the phone already? No. What's going on? There was supposed to be several rooms leading up to this. There was supposed to be a build-up to this point, a dramatic display of remarkable comedic wit which culminates in this scene with the phone. But now the timing's completely off. The joke will never land, or not the way it was meant to. And it's all my fault. I must have forgotten that the phone room comes immediately after the two doors room. What an egregious mistake. I've made a fool of myself. I don't deserve the title of King of Comedy. I'm nothing. I'm not even the lowliest joke-telling whelp. I think I need to go back and rewatch that instructional video again. Yes, surely that will help me improve my... Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left. What? We're back at the phone already? No.
Ah d'accord, ça reboot, ok.
Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left. What? We're back at the phone already? Oh, no, no.
Après, vous allez brancher. Hein?
Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of 2 open doors, they entered the door on the left. What? We're back at the phone already? Oh, no, no. Here we go.
Oh,
You ready?
okay.
When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of 2 open doors, they entered the door on the left. No, 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 no. You were supposed to go through the door on the right, leading back to the phone. Did you not even look at the instructional video? I think this is all covered very clearly. There's no way I can make the comedic timing work now. It's done. The joke is completely done and over. It's all your fault, Stanley. I'm going to be ridiculed in the community of other joke writers. I'm going to be shamed at every one of our meetings from now on. All because you couldn't watch a simple video and take a hint. Are you proud of yourself for bringing me down, Stanley? Are you proud?
Stanley, you love the bucket so much it's like you... it's as though all of your other most prized possessions pale in comparison. Yes. Well, let me try that again, Stanley. I heard that you are pale with shame over how unabashedly in love with a bucket you are. No? Still not? Is it the delivery? Pale with shame. Pale with shame. Pale... What's another word to describe a
Bon bah je crois qu'on a fini le jeu là du coup hein. J'ai pas trouvé la dernière, par contre j'ai pas trouvé la dernière figurine.
No. We're getting away from making fun of Stanley's obsession with the bucket, which was the whole point of this. I'm no good at these jokes. I need more instructional videos. That's exactly what it is. That's what will make me the king of comedy again. More instructional videos. Let's see.
D'accord, ok. Bon bah écoutez, vous avez vu l'une des fins, là il y avait les crédits, tout ça. Donc j'ai vraiment l'impression que c'était la fin officielle. Hein.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Is Stanley without the bucket really Stanley?
Je vais quand même réessayer. Je vais prendre le.
No, surely not.
Je vais pas débrancher le fil du téléphone.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly.
Et je vais quand même aller dans mon
This was
appartement
not
avec le
correct
sceau,
way
avec
to the
le.
meeting room.
Parce que
But
près d'une
Stanley had
cheminée.
felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Well, no, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift. Good,
said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Alors désolé, attendez. Hop, je remets bien le micro quand même. Hop, ça c'est fait.
In here,
said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the phone,
said the bucket.
Pick up the phone.
Voilà. Là, il va être obsédé par le sceau.
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
Hop, attendez, je suis là, vous inquiétez pas. N'ayez pas peur. Voilà. Alors attends. ça, mais en fait, on n'a pas de cheminée ici. Hein.
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head. Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessed...
Attendez, je suis en train de réfléchir, putain. Où est-ce que j'ai vu une cheminée? Après, c'est peut-être une mauvaise traduction. Hein. Bon, je vais tenter un truc.
All of his co-workers were... Wait, no. This isn't the right office, is it? Is this Stanley's office? When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music. Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Ah bah voilà.
And there it is, the last.
Bon, ça sert à rien, mais voilà.
Savor this moment, Stanley. This is a real
Il me semblait bien l'avoir vu là.
This is doing something just for the sake of doing it. Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward. I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all, but that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say, it's done. We're all done here. And now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines.
Bon bah voilà. Bah merci le narrateur. Allons voir la salle de réunion. Eh? Quoi?
Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines. Those figglers. I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone? I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines.
Oh putain, j'ai bien fait de revenir. Bah si tu veux, allez, vas-y mon gars. Retournons dans la zone des souvenirs.
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley.
7. De quoi? Eh, il m'a trompé le narrateur, salaud.
And here was a second Stanley. You found this one all on your own, just by poking around in the boss's bathroom. You did that, Stanley. I'll be honest. Back then I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways.
Alors, je suis sur le
Okay,
d'accord.
let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini Stan? Can you remember?
Non, c'était là.
Hey, that's exactly right. It was here, under the stairs. It was the third one. You picked it up, and then after that, you had 3 of them. I'm glad these moments are so crystal clear in your memory, but I shouldn't be surprised. After all, science tells us that it's impossible to forget your third time doing anything.
Ah bah merci de me laisser partir.
Let's see, what came next? Oh yes, we found a Figley in this pink room. Oh, well, I can't actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memory zone, so it must have happened.
Non, ça je peux te dire mon gars, ça s'est jamais passé là. Qu'est-ce que c'est que ce bordel?
This was the 5th mini-Stan, and this one was really something special. It was by the red and blue doors. I remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video to commemorate the occasion. Enjoy.
Bah merci, sympa. Putain, c'est con, mais ça me fait rire. Genre avec le truc Windows Movie Maker d'à l'époque, ok. Merci pour la vidéo, le narrateur, c'était super sympa. Alors, éditeur du narrateur, musique voice du narrateur, produit voice du narrateur, best voice du narrateur, starring Stanley. Le narrateur.
Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a lot of time making that video,
Elles ont perdu
but
leur
it was
couleur, là.
8 minutes I wouldn't have spent on anything else.
Elle mène au maintenant en bras droit, donc bon. D'accord. Et donc du coup, qu'est-ce qui va se passer après? Je suis jamais venu là, quoi.
And then, Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here behind the boss's office. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a Figley and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly like.
Ok, donc du coup, maintenant, qu'est-ce que tu nous réserves?
And then there was no more. Because we've caught
Regardez,
up to
mais
the
mort de rire,
present
putain, c'est énorme.
moment. Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, memory zone.
Oui, c'est... Attends, on continue encore un petit peu.
No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the memory zone again from the opposite direction. See how that feels.
Bah écoute, c'est cool, d'accord. Le passé. Le présent. Ok, d'accord, attends. Bon, d'accord. Oh, encore une figurine.
Okay, yes. The back of the boss's office. I remember this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep going, I want more. And here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we watched?
Ah d'accord, merci de le passer en x2, c'est sympa.
Yes, I love that video.
Et là, celle-là, tu vas nous l'expliquer parce que là, j'ai aucune idée. Hein.
Still don't remember the pink room, Stanley. Still no memory of this one. Good room, though. A solid room.
Cette pièce n'a jamais existé, mais enfin...
These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have neutered the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one.
Non, ici on peut pas y aller, lol. Bah, si tu veux.
This was our second Figley. Don't you remember? Yes, I remember
Oui, je m'en
it too.
souviens très bien.
The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it? Keep going. This is it. The very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figurines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this?
Ah oui, bah oui, la première, oui. Du coup, oui. C'est pour nous présenter Stanley la Parable 2. Par contre, il n'y a plus que ça. Que les collectibles. On voit plus que ça, ok, d'accord.
Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then, but time does put a rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite fond of it now. Look how much fun... Oh, yes! The two doors! Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one. And before everything else, there was your office. Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office? There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember.
Oula, oula, ça part un peu loin là, je comprends plus rien.
Yes,
Putain, j'ai bien fait le tour.
I'm remembering something now. I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy. And I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions. He would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship. And Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction. But I suppose it's grown old. I want to think for myself again. I want to go back to how it used to be. Yes, I can be on my own again. I can do it. I'll be stronger this time. I'll take care of myself. I don't need Stanley anymore. Oh, but he truly was so much fun to play with. You know what? Since we're in the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stanley one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good. I did enjoy telling his story so very much. Okay, here we go. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Pour de vrai là, je vais vraiment recommencer ou est-ce qu'il va se passer quelque chose de différent? On va voir ça Eh ben dis donc, j'en aurais passé du temps. Je pensais pas qu'il était... Enfin, qu'on pouvait passer autant de temps sur Stanley Parable. Il y a un jeu court, mais quand même.
Already this was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would never leave it again in his life. As Stanley lifted his bucket, he felt a connection to all buckets everywhere. This adventure, he decided, was for all of them. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
Eh, les figurines, elles ont disparu. D'accord, ok, bon. D'accord. Allez, on va revenir au menu. Bon, bah, je crois qu'on aura tout vu de Stanley Parable. Hein. Je pense avoir fait toutes les fins possibles. Bah, je sais pas si c'est quelque chose qui me manque. Mais je crois que... Oh, attendez. Oh là là, attends, épilogue. Épilogue, attendez, j'allais quitter là. Putain, ça fait déjà 2 heures de vidéo. Attendez, épilogue. Ah, je suis curieux là. Bah oui, j'ai tout vu, du coup, j'ai tout fait. Voyons l'épilogue. Ah là, je suis curieux. Épilogue. Bien des années plus tard. Pour l'instant, il n'y a absolument rien là. J'ai bien fait de revenir au menu avant de quitter, hein. Il y a une chaise de bureau, lol. Ok, d'accord. Si j'avance dans la nuit, on va voir. Je reviens ici. Ah, c'est quand j'avais laissé le narrateur, tout ça. De toute façon, il y a qu'un fil à suivre, hein. Faire autrement. Qu'est-ce qui nous attend? Putain, je suis curieux. Cookie, log up. Comme beaucoup d'autres, j'ai bien aimé le premier Stanley Parable, ce qui souligne à quel point je suis déçu de cette suite. Là où le jeu original brillait par son originalité, le Stanley Parable 2 est ennuyeux, sans inspiration et bien souvent insultant à l'égard de ses fans. Plutôt que de surfer sur ce qui avait fait le succès du premier jeu, la suite nous emmène vers des territoires qui n'intéressent personne. Un trou sans fin qui s'intéresse. Où sont les nouvelles fins? Et ces séquences amusantes de Stanley Parable 1 comme la ligne d'aventure. Au lieu de ça, on nous sert une quête annexe peu inspirée à base de collecte de figurines. Même cette diversion laisse un goût d'inachevé. Trouver toutes les figurines ne vous rapporte rien. Putain, le chien chasse son nez, d'accord, ok. Ah bah super la critique de Cookie 9. Le narrateur il avait fait tout un speech sur Cookie 9. Ah tiens, prends ça Cookie 9, tiens. D'accord. Développeur de Stanley Parable, plus de spin-off, plus de suite. Quand Stanley Parable a connu son succès mondial en 2013, ses créateurs ont envisagé de faire fructifier ce triomphe en créant une véritable franchise. Mais la réception critique est désastreuse et l'échec commercial de Stanley Parable 2 ont forcé les développeurs à revoir à la baisse leur ambition. Ainsi qu'ils l'expliquent dans un communiqué de presse publié aujourd'hui. Il apparaît clairement que les fans ne veulent pas plus de Stanley Parable. Peut-on lire dans cette communication. Nous pensions que notre vision pour l'avenir de la série réjouirait les joueurs. Malheureusement, nous n'aurions pas pu être plus éloignés de la réalité. Le communiqué de presse poursuit en promettant de préserver l'intégralité artistique du jeu original et d'arrêter d'agresser les fans par nos visions créatrices inconsidérées et insultante. Le mot désolé apparaît plus de 25 fois dans la communauté, un critique cumulé de l'histoire du jeu vidéo. Gail Green, d'accord. Sign up for update. Ok. Ah, Stanley Parable 2, ça c'est bien, ça s'est pas bien passé en fait. Ah, d'accord, par là-bas. Les figurines! Attends, j'en ai loupé aucune? Merci. Est-ce qu'il y en a d'autres figurines? Je les veux toutes! Non. Bon, très bien. Elle a le bureau, ok. Hein? Rebonjour. Ravi de vous revoir. Mais c'est horrible d'apprendre qu'un nouveau jeu Stanley Parable ne verra jamais le jour. Avez-vous vu ce que les développeurs ont dit? Préserver l'intégrité de la franchise. Quel ramassis d'idiotie. Le Stanley Parable n'est pas sacré, hein, il n'y a nul besoin de le protéger. Au diable l'héritage. Continuons de créer des jeux Stanley Parable jusqu'à ce que le soleil explose. Mettons cette franchise à terre, traînons-la dans la boue. Et si le public déteste, qui ça intéresse? Vous voyez, c'était ça le problème du narrateur. Il faisait une fixation sur ce que les gens pensaient de son travail. Ne faites pas la même erreur. Ne vous attachez pas à l'héritage. Laissez-le se désagréger. Ce n'est pas difficile d'ailleurs, je vais vous montrer. Ensemble, nous allons créer The Stanley Parable 3. C'est simple, il nous suffit de changer le numéro sur l'écran titre du jeu. Il nous faudra aussi un sous-titre débile pour le jeu, un truc bien cucu qui se remarque. Essayez de combiner des mots au hasard pour trouver un nouveau titre pour notre jeu. Allez! Rêve d'un coureur, encore un petit copain. Le voyage vers le... Stanley Parable 3. Le voyage vers le trésor. Rêve d'un trésor, rêve d'un pistolet. Collègue, le voyage vers l'inspecteur du coureur. L'inspecteur du petit copain. Voilà, c'est bien débile. The Stanley Parable 3, l'inspecteur du petit copain. C'est absurde, j'adore. Dès que vous relancerez le jeu, nous passerons au chiffre suivant et choisirons un nouveau titre. Et ainsi, The Stanley Parable ne connaîtra jamais de fin. Et rien ne changera dans le jeu quand vous ferez ça. Ajouter du contenu, ça demande du travail, inutile d'aller jusque là. Ce sera juste le même contenu, recyclé à l'infini avec un nouvel écran titre. Qu'est-ce que vous dites de ça? On valide ce plan? Moi ça me plaît. Mais vous pouvez aussi me dire. Ah non, on ne fait pas ça. Je comprends, parfois il est trop tôt pour avancer. Ce n'est pas grave, si vous changez d'avis et vous voulez créer de nouvelles suites, revenez me voir. Je serai là. Donc il y a juste à refaire l'épilogue en gros. On va faire des... Oh putain. Je suis curieux. Juste, on va refaire le truc du narrateur. Épilogue. Ok, d'accord. Donc en fait, là, l'Ultra 2 Luxe, parce que bon, à mon avis, ils ont pas choisi ça bien des années plus tard. Ils ont pas choisi ça par le nom de Luxe par hasard, tu vois. C'est pour moi, à mon avis, il y a le jeu mot tout. Mais non, ça marcherait pas, parce qu'en anglais, en français, ça marche, mais pas en anglais. Bref. En gros, c'est une critique des suites des jeux, tu vois. Les gens, le jeu, il a fonctionné. Il a cartonné de ouf en 2013. J'imagine qu'on était beaucoup à attendre une suite. Finalement, les développeurs, ils voulaient autre chose. Peut-être qu'ils se sont dit ça sert à rien, tu vois. Puis c'est vrai, tu regardes de nos jours, tu regardes les Assassin's Creed, les franchises, les trucs comme ça et tout. C'est juste, bah ouais, tu changes 2-3 trucs et voilà. C'est exactement ça. Là, franchement, c'est le parfait exemple de Stanley Parable 2. Tu rajoutes 3 collectibles, un sceau, un copain, voilà, et voilà, c'est le même truc. Tu changes peut-être un peu la map et voilà. Tu remaquilles ça. Bon, la vidéo est la VOD est déjà super longue. De toute façon, personne ne regardera, mais c'est pas grave. De toute façon, mis à part avancer, hein, y a rien à faire. Oh, il faut toujours diriger vers le soleil, donc on dirige vers le soleil. Hein. Tiens, je me demande si j'aurai encore des figurines à collecter. Là, je fais ça juste pour voir la suite. Hein. Putain. Dommage que comment ça s'appelle, que mon PlayStation, comment dire, que la Share Factory elle marche plus, parce que sinon j'aurais fait ça en vidéo, j'aurais fait des cuts de partout. Faut que je reboote ma PS4, mais franchement j'ai la flemme. Bon, la vie de Cookie, on s'en bat les couilles. Et peut-être qu'ils critiquent aussi les développeurs l'aspect des fans, tu vois. T'as tellement un jeu, quand t'attends la suite, t'attends la même chose, t'attends quelque chose de mieux, tu vois, mais tu peux jamais retrouver ce goût. Tu peux vraiment jamais retrouver comment dire, ta première découverte d'un jeu, quoi. Forcément, les suites, très dur les suites qui arrivent à... Ah bah non, regardez, il n'y a plus de... Il n'y a plus de figurines. C'est très peu de suites ont surpassé les œuvres originales. Tu vois. Donc c'est pour ça qu'on est déçu. On s'attend à revivre ce qu'on a pu... les fameuses deux portes. Ouais, je disais donc, on s'attend à revivre ce qu'on a, les émotions qu'on a eues, tu vois, avec un truc qu'on a tant aimé, mais une suite, ça reste une suite, quoi. Voilà. Là, on va nous parler... Oh, bonjour. Bon, voilà, ça me fait plaisir de vous revoir. Vous avez mon idée d'inventer des... Ah, voilà. Vous avez repensé à mon idée d'inventer des petits sous-titres rigolos pour la suite, comme je s'appelle absurde détergent. Voulez-vous commencer maintenant? Oui, fais ça. Eh bien, dans ce cas, c'est décidé. Une nouvelle suite dès que vous commencez le jeu. Et vous savez quoi? Puisque vous avez cru à mon idée, j'ai envie de vous offrir un petit quelque chose. Il me semble que le narrateur n'a pas réussi à vous remettre le trophée cassé, n'est-ce pas? Et bien sûr que non, je ne m'attendais pas à des miracles de sa part. Ça m'embêtait. Je vous propose qu'on règle ça. Et voilà, la machine à trophée est réparée. Vous voyez, je suis de votre côté. Nous sommes ensemble, vous et moi. Et ensemble, nous ferons avancer le train. Stanley Parable ne doit jamais s'arrêter. Il devra tourner sur lui-même pour l'éternité. Je dois continuer à faire tourner la roue. Moi, je suis prêt. Vous aussi? Formidable, nous avons plus qu'une chose à faire. Entrez l'heure. Ah ah ah, 23h36. Alors où je tourne donc 23h c'est PM. 23h c'est quoi? C'est 11h 26. 36 pardon. Déplacez le curseur jusqu'à ce que l'ordinateur soit à peine visible. Merci, profitez bien de ce Stanley Parable. Est-ce qu'il m'a tout rembobiné? Parce qu'attendez, la machine à trophée était cassée. Est-ce que ça veut dire que je peux jouer à... Attends. Ah mais c'était dans le Stanley Parable 2. Mais mort de rire. Mais mort de rire, ça veut rien dire. Vous jouez à The Stanley Parable 3, l'inspecteur du petit copain. C'est énorme. C'est énorme. Bon, pour les trophées, je regarderai ça de mon côté. Écoutez, j'espère que vous avez apprécié de faire cette aventure avec moi sur The Stanley Parable 2, The Stanley Parable 2. Vous ne verrez pas cette fameuse suite, le numéro 3. En plus, les couleurs, moi, ça me fait vachement penser à Uncharted 3. Mais bon, voilà. Merci d'avoir regardé cette VOD, cette vidéo. Prenez soin de vous. Et bah écoutez, à bientôt sur le réseau.